Hi, I'm Brian King, founder of SpectrumMentor.com. I'd like to talk to you about something. A wise person once said, if you want a better answer, you have to ask a better question. Well, I saw this question online this morning that was a polling question of some kind. And as a parent, it really upset me. Here's the question that was asked. What sacrifices have you had to make to have children? Now imagine what kind of a conversation you're going to have in response to that question. What kind of sacrifices have you had to make? Okay, so you're thinking of being a parent in terms of loss. What a horrible question. Let me tell you why I react so strongly to this. At the age of 18, shortly from graduating, 3 weeks shy of my high school graduation, I was diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer. And I spent that summer in very intensive, awful chemotherapy. Fellow cancer survivors will appreciate what that means. So, as a consequence of my treatment, I was told I would likely never have children. So I resigned myself to that fact. I'll never be a parent. I'll never have that pleasure of holding a baby, feeding a baby, hearing a child laugh, watching their first steps. So, lo and behold, many, many years later, I discovered that my then wife was pregnant with our first child. When I heard that news, the last thing on my mind was everything I was going to lose. All I could think about was everything that was going to come into my life now. And 13 years later, yeah, he's a teenager and a real pain in my backside sometimes, but I wouldn't change any of it for the world. And he has 2 brothers as well. So I have 3 little miracles in my life. What have I sacrificed? Well, what I had to sacrifice was that belief that I'd never be a father. I had to give that up, and I had to replace it with 3 beautiful little boys. Yeah, they're all on the autism spectrum, and there's a lot of challenges that go along with that. So you know what else I had to sacrifice? Being lazy. Being settled for what I am capable of. I had to step up and be stronger than I ever thought I could be because these boys require it of me. I also had to sacrifice being selfish. Doing everything that I wanted on my own terms, whenever I wanted to, being impulsive, being carefree. Yeah, that'd be nice sometimes, but is it my highest priority? Heck no. My highest priority is raising these boys with such values and such strength that the world doesn't eat them alive, so that they can succeed and be effective and be contributing human beings to the world. So, yeah, did I have to sacrifice a little? No. I had to step up. I had to acquire new things. I had to acquire higher standards. I had to learn more things. I had to bring people into my life to back me up and help me be stronger. I also had to sacrifice living lower standards. Okay? Case in point. My middle son, Aiden, who is one of my personal heroes, diagnosed with classic autism, significant speech delay until he was about 5 years old. He's come so far. I'm so proud of him, and he's proud of himself. His number one goal for this year, for school, was to have friends. Finding a friend has been very difficult for him. And he found one friend. And yesterday, on the way home from school, he and his younger brother, Connor, ride the bus to and from school together. Well, this one friend of Aiden's was teasing Connor and wouldn't stop. So Aiden, who wanted friends so bad at the beginning of the year, and now had a friend, turned to this friend who was teasing his little brother mercilessly and said to him, "You're no longer my friend because nobody treats my brother that way." Talk about a kid with integrity, a kid who's clear on what his values are. So, yeah, I sacrificed being impulsive and lazy, and I had to replace that with being so full of integrity myself because I had to give up the right to be a hypocrite, as too many people allow themselves these days, even parents. Okay, so if that applies to you, don't be offended. Take responsibility. Because the bottom line is, if you want a kid that doesn't stand for something, if you want a kid that doesn't know who he is or where he's going, then stop being a hypocrite. Be consistent. Stand for something yourself as a parent. Make sure your values are clear. If you say it, mean it. If you promise it, do it. Because your kids are watching and they're going to model this. My kids have such high integrity. Why? Because that's the standard they're held to. Because that's my personal standard. If you want to reserve the right to complain and whine and all that other stuff, fine, you're going to get those results. You're going to see it mirrored back to you in how your children approach life. If they make excuses, it's because you allow it. You make excuses yourself. You quit. You give up. And hey, this is speaking from experience. I'm a legendary quitter. You know, those who have known me my entire life, I would throw in the towel at the slightest hint of resistance. Cancer effectively kicked that out of me. And having kids on the spectrum that I saw suffering day in and day out because nobody would step up for them, nobody would help them, well, when nobody would do it, I had to do it. And now anybody that's in our lives has to be held to the same standard or they're not in our lives. Because there is too much at stake here. So, did I sacrifice? Did I give things up because I decided to be a parent, because I decided to have kids? Hell no. My life is fuller than it has ever been. More than I could ever imagine it would be. Why? Because I have kids. Because I'm a parent. I've grown in ways that I never would have. So the answer, or rather the question I ask myself isn't, what did I have to sacrifice to have kids? My question is, how have I benefited? How have I grown? How is my life more complete because I had kids? I like the answers to that question. So if you want to have better answers, ask better questions. Thanks for talking about this. Hope to talk to you again soon. I'm Brian King.